Hey there, young historians. Today we're talking about something that really got the American colonists fired up, the Intolerable Acts. Let's picture it. It's 1774. Boston is buzzing and people are not happy. Why? Because the British have just passed some rules so harsh that the colonists didn't just think they were bad, they called them intolerable. Now that's a big word, but it basically means these laws were impossible to put up with. Let's see why. First up, the Boston Port Act. The British were still fuming over the Boston Tea Party, where those rebellious colonists dumped loads of British tea right into Boston Harbor. King George and Parliament wanted payback. So, they shut down the entire port of Boston. That meant no ships could come in or out until the colonists paid for all that tea. No trade, no supplies, nothing. Imagine if someone cut off all your food deliveries until you paid for, let's say, a pizza someone else threw out. The people of Boston were stuck and not happy about it. Next, we've got the Massachusetts Government Act. This one really hit home. The British basically said, hey, no more town meetings unless we say so. Town meetings were a big deal for the colonists. They were where people came together to talk about issues and make decisions. Imagine if your school said you could only have class discussions if the principal allowed it. The colonists were not okay with that. They wanted to decide their own rules, not have Britain deciding everything from across the ocean. Then, there was the Administration of Justice Act. This one was nicknamed the Murder Act by the colonists. Here's why. It said that if British officials got into trouble for breaking the law in the colonies, they could be sent back to Britain for trial. That meant if a British official did something wrong, there was a good chance he'd get off easy. The colonists thought, wait a minute, so they can do whatever they want here and get a free pass? That definitely didn't sit well with them. Now let's talk about the Quartering Act. This one was an old law that the British decided to put back into effect, just to add to the fun. The Quartering Act said that if the British Army needed a place to stay, the colonists had to give them a bed. And not just that, they also had to feed them. Imagine coming home and finding a British soldier chilling in your living room, helping himself to your snacks. The colonists were not exactly thrilled to have soldiers living in their homes, eating their food, and taking over their space. Finally, there was the Quebec Act. This one didn't directly punish Boston, but it was all part of the same package. The Quebec Act expanded the territory of Quebec and gave more rights to Catholics, which was actually nice for people in Quebec. But for the American colonists, this felt like Britain was trying to control even more of North America. They didn't want the British sneaking in new rules over their borders. So, why were these acts such a big deal? Well, they weren't just laws. They were Britain's way of showing power over the colonies. The British thought these rules would make the colonists behave, but boy, were they wrong. Instead, the colonists got even angrier. The Intolerable Acts actually helped the colonies band together. Leaders from each colony started talking and planning, which led to something huge, the First Continental Congress. That's when they came together to figure out how to stand up to Britain and fight for their rights. And there you have it, the Intolerable Acts. They might have been harsh, unfair, and, yes, intolerable, but they set the stage for the American Revolution. Thanks to these acts, the colonists realized they had to unite if they wanted freedom. So next time you feel like something's unfair, just remember, there's a long history of people standing up for what's right, even if it takes a little time. Thanks for watching, History Adventurers! See you next time!